Wilson, Togaman Guitar Viols. What's a guitar viol? Well, it is a guitar formatted viola, bowed guitar if you will. It is a modern version of the arpeggione, which was an instrument that came around 200 years ago and really sort of historically failed. So it's been my mission to bring a failed 19th century instrument into the 21st century. So far, the last 15 or 20 years, you've heard these a lot in a lot of movies, TV, film, video games. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about the latest iteration of these, and this is a composite model that's an acoustic electric Togaman guitar viol, and it's dubbed the 10X. And anyway, this is made out of a carbon fiber hull and a very engineered top. Also, the Bioglide fingerboard. I'm going to talk about these things just a little bit each. So when I started this particular project in 2016, it had to do with dealing with a lot of things. Harsh conditions climate-wise around the world and outside of the shop. Even making these things was a hassle. When we're working with fragile woods, they're subject to swelling and contracting, cracking, all kinds of things. Now, when I ship my instruments, I never want to see it again. Actually, I want to see them on Instagram, or I want to hear them in the movies or on your soundtrack. I'd rather they don't come back for any kind of structural repairs. And when you have hundreds of these things floating around out there, well, do the math. If one shows up on my doorstep for a broken neck or something like that because it was dropped, well, that's at the expense of maybe about 30 other people per year plus that are waiting a very long time on these instruments. So I really want to build them so they just live a long time. But more importantly, they have to sound great, play great, and inspire. And anyway, I know that sounds like a very lofty set of caveats. However, that's something that I am sincerely pushing and have been for many years. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the Bioglide. So in the early days when I was making frets on these instruments, they had fingerboards that were much like this, much like a guitar, except they were a little curved. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the optimal curve because the frets want to fly out when you start bending it a certain amount. We took a try about 10 years ago with CNC, and that's computer numerical control milling. And it made it in the rough pretty nice, but there was still a huge amount of just after work and labor. So basically, the arriving at these fingerboards to where they're highly playable takes 10 times longer than any guitar out there. And so I've had to face issues that guitar builders and violin builders really never face. So I got very frustrated at some point. I think it was probably almost 10 years ago. And I just said, regardless of tradition, regardless of material, what would the ultimate playing surface on these instruments be like? And I arrived at something called the Bioglide, and this is a composite graphite. It has a zero friction playing experience. I don't have to worry about getting those emails about frets popping out or wood doing what horrible things that wood can do. Also, I found that they're much more consistent. We can get even note responses. When you're dealing with organics, it's a crapshoot because sometimes you're going to get a hot spot on the fingerboard, other times you're going to get a cold spot on the fingerboard. There's no predicting it. And the only time you find out what the outcome of that is, well, putting zillions of hours into it and then finding out, oh, it's got a little issue there. So these are very consistent. They're a high performance part, and that's very important to me. Anyway, these fingerboards started in 2016, and they've been on the last 150 instruments that I've built that are otherwise wooden instruments. And they were originally designed for this instrument, the 10X. And so literally this instrument was built around the fingerboard. And it's been a long fits and starts process getting all the molds and engineering, and I pretty much right now I'm happy to announce that I've got the major bottlenecks of the engineering together, and we are starting to get into production. It's a bit like trying to take a loaded freight train and start it back up again and get the momentum back again. So I appreciate all of you early adopters who've been around for quite a while, who've been hanging out all this time, because it's just been, what can I say, it's been a lot longer of a, process getting to this point than I thought it was going to be 6 years ago. I thought we would be 2 years and we'd be just, running the presses. There were some other hurdles along the way, of course, all these things from bureaucracies and relocations and climate events and so on and so forth. And then, of course, after the move, we've had a worldwide pandemic, so that's made it an even extra layer of fun. By the way, I'm out here in Valencia, California, near Magic Mountain. And if you're in the greater Los Angeles area, I welcome you to make an appointment with me. I'd love for you to come by and give this thing a spin. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this instrument. It is, like I said, it's a unihull construction, meaning that this body and neck is all one. So it comes out of the same basic mold. There's a lot under the hood, though, structurally, so I'm not going to go into that a lot, but it's part of the process of getting here, was getting all that stuff. So it's one thing making the molds and the patterns, it's another getting it all to work. And speaking of that, I want to talk a bit about the engineered top that these things have. Now you can see that this one has a very nice, beautiful Bassa cedar outer, and this particular one also has a very beautiful, stunning, this is a quilted maple, and this is constructed to be resonant, powerful, responsive, and more importantly, it's not going to crack. And it's impervious to whatever climates we can take it into. So I'm very proud of this development, and this is basically a lot of the heartbeat of the sound. This is, in fact, the speaker. I've made a lot of spruce tops, just like violins and guitars. Let me tell you something, it's wonderful stuff. I built out a Let's spruce for many years. I've done these pressure bent tops that are actually stronger than purely carved tops, and they were partially carved, partially bent, and I could go into a whole thing on those. But these I'm particularly proud of. And the other thing is that we can use a variety of wood veneer that we cannot use structurally otherwise, because oftentimes the prettier the wood, the more structural issues it has and the easier it breaks. This has been actually vacuum infused with a certain type of resin. This is actually a plant-based, lind-based resin that I'm using. And we have a balsa layer, and we have the sound, the bass bar. And so mechanically everything checks out and works. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And so we have eye candy with benefits. Some other fun features, which I can't really get on camera this second, but these dots actually are glow in the dark, which are pretty nice, because if you're in a studio and you're recording and you kind of want to charge it up with your iPhone, or you can take it out in the sun for a second and charge them up, you have this nice little reference points. And anyway, again, I want to give a shout out to the early adopters in this project who've been in the queue for way longer than I care to admit. But you guys made this happen, and it's been, now my next thing is, of course, just getting these things built and out to you. It's been a much longer process than I thought. I went into completely uncharted territory with this thing. And, I should point out that there are other instrument builders out there that make composite instruments. And some are really wonderful. I've never been completely satisfied, and so it's like I really want to take the state of the art to the next level. And part of it has been the way these are engineered. And anyway, that being said, like it has been for the last 20 years, particularly the last 15, is it's been a typical year-long plus backlog, and it's because I don't have a factory, and I think most people estimate me as some small individual builder, which is absolutely true. On the other hand, the demand is a lot higher, okay, and I have not had the factory infrastructure as some other bigger companies have had. The other thing is, I have had some actually approach me for licensing a long time ago. That really didn't happen, mainly because their excitement was short-lived when they found out that this is not exactly low-hanging fruit to make. So they picked the low-hanging fruit and just stuck with pointy guitars that they could sell in music stores to kids. This is a very serious, however fun and inspiring instrument to play and own, and I thank you for your interest in that. So anyway, I would like to invite you to, if you are in Southern California, greater Los Angeles area, or visiting, please reach out, and I would love to give you a little test drive of this, and perhaps even a tour of the shop. Also, I want to point out that I've got a new Substack newsletter, Jonathan Eric Wilson, which is actually my name, and I write about these type of things. I write about news about the instrument, but also I kind of get into other topics that could range from just a drive in California coast and wine country to the inner workings of the musical instrument business and a lot of the myth busting I like to do with that kind of stuff. In any event, so check out the Substack thing, and if you'd like to subscribe, I welcome you to. The deep dive stuff I will be getting into down the road here will be a little bit paywallish, but I want to put out a lot of good free content as well, and just stuff that'll be of interest. So don't be afraid to subscribe even to that. But we will go for the deeper dives on the other stuff. Anyway, have an exceedingly awesome day. Stay inspired, stay in touch, and I look forward to meeting you and being of service.